Hello, everybody. Welcome to RSN Talkz. We're here with a close friend and great pro wrestler, Jayden Cena. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast interview. It's a very much honor.
Thank you, man.
I can't wait to get started.
Yes, sir. Okay, so you started in 2019. You started cleans in 2019, the Feds, and ELW, correct?
Yep, correct.
And you were Jayden Cena then?
Yes. Yeah, I was Jayden
Okay.
Cena at that time.
What was that experience like?
So, from someone that went from WWE 2K18 and R2 Interactive, I didn't know what Feds were. And I was just happened to be in a game. I won a title, and two guys walked up to me who are now not around today. Well, one is, but one's gone. But they came up to me and said, you're a great pro wrestler." And I was like, "Thanks. I didn't know who they were. I don't know who they are now." And they said, "Would you like to join ELW?" And I was like, "What the fuck is an ELW?" So I was
Yeah.
like, "You know what? I'll join. I'll have a look. I'll see what it's like." So I joined the Fed. I think it was the next day or something, or that exact day I debuted, and I won my debut against who I'd now call one of my best friends in pro wrestling. I'm not going to mention his name, but I debuted, and I was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. And they told me how all the federations work in pro wrestling, and I was outstanding. I was happy with it. I was like, I'll continue to do this for a while. And and they were like, "What's your name?" And originally I went by Jay Cena, but then I was like, "Nah, I want to go by Jayden Cena." So that's when I started making the name a bit more, and then I added my first theme song to it. So that's how I got into Feds, because for the past, like, since my very debut, I was just in 2K games and R2 Interactive, which I still did along the lines with Feds, but these days I don't do that anymore because, as you know, they're not around anymore, except for that wrestle game, which I have only played once.
Really?
But it's good there's that type of game around, because it teaches like new people to learn what it's like to do row wrestling, and then once they've got good at that, then they can get into the bigger Feds. So that's how
But
I got my
that's
stuff.
that's accurate though. It helps with skills mostly. But I do want to
Yeah.
ask you, what's your take on pro wrestling? There's a lot of toxic people. There's a lot of great people out there in the community. But what's your overall take on it?
It's not like it used to be. Like, I know when I first come into it, it was fine. Like, of course, there was a bit of toxicity, but there always has been, because you got people that are always in kayfabe, and then there's people that are not in kayfabe, and they always get harassed by the people that are in kayfabe. But I learned my way when I began. I was mostly in kayfabe, and then as the years have progressed, I went out of kayfabe, and I was like, every time I'm not row wrestling, I'm not in kayfabe. But once I'm like at an arena in the spotlight, then I'm in kayfabe. But in terms of like people on Twitter and social media, that's massive. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, just pop up row wrestling on Twitter, and you just get this toxic community that's like, holy crap, what is this community? Like, you got people that are, I like to name it, but I'm not going to, because most of the row wrestling community is. You got hackers, exploiters, you got all the bad stuff, and you know what I mean. But of course, you can separate the bad from the good. Like, you can separate, like, for example, Peter Cena's bad with, let's say, Unstable Cryso's good. So that's how you can tell, like, who's a good guy, who's a bad guy in the community. Because you've got people that have, like, that have been accused or have allegations against them, and that's where we separate them away from the good guys. So on my take, it's like like 3/4 of the community is just toxic, and the rest are just like, all right, this is chill. I'm just gonna keep watch.
Okay. That's a pretty decent take. I like how you mentioned you can tell good from bad, like Peter Cena's good. No, Peter Cena's bad and Unstable Chrysler is good.
Yeah, because we know what Peter did last year, and I don't know how he's still back. I don't know how, but I'm not going to get into that because
Yeah.
I'll get yelling at me.
Let's talk about some of your most successful moments in your career. I know you made it into the FCW Hall of Fame, but what are some of the other biggest moments and most successful moments in your career?
So one that I cherish a lot. The most successful moment I've always like, and it happens every time I'm in the row wrestling ring, and that's entertaining an audience. They don't just go there to just, watch shit happen and expect good things to happen. When I go there, I make sure that everyone's happy and entertained. Of course, I see people that don't like it, but the better the attendance, the better the crowd will respond. And that's what I call like one of my biggest achievements, is being able to entertain an audience. But in terms of like titles and Hall of Fames, like FCW, I was the first ever Hall of Famer to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Well, actually, I'll piece that a bit better because that will probably confuse people. I was the first ever FCW superstar to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And that was actually announced like 4 or 5 months before the Hall of Fame even happened. So to be able to have that is a huge achievement. I even headlined that, I'm pretty sure. I can't fully remember now, because the Hall of Fame itself was in 2021. But in other terms of like successful moments, like of course I've had title runs in Feds. I've also had decent matches where I've called like some of my best wins. Like one match I had, I thought I was going to lose, but I somehow won. It was a triple threat match last year. Yeah, last year actually. Around October, pretty sure. Pretty sure it was in October last year. And it was a triple threat match, and I was like, fuck, I might lose this. And I ended up winning. And I was like, well, I still got it. So I occasionally have my wins and losses, but in terms of that, like my best accomplishments are just entertaining the audience and making everyone smile as I walk out of the arena, whether I win or lose.
Yeah, that's a great mindset to have. You know, whether you win or whether you lose, it's mostly it's just
I've
Roblox.
always, I've always said, like, to myself and other people, whether I win or lose, I always walk away with a smile. If we're talking about me like 5 years ago, I'd be pissed off and having a meltdown. But over time, I've learned to stop doing that, and I'm just like, okay, it happened.
It happened, and there's nothing else you can do about it.
Exactly. You lost, you win, you win. The win is just the bonus.
Yep, the win is the overall point of world wrestling is just to have fun. Honestly,
Exactly. Yeah, but some people take it too seriously.
I know people
Which is
doing some hacks.
Yeah, that's why that goes back to the first question. Like, what's the overall take? Like between toxic and good. that's where it comes into that. That's when you can separate the toxic from the good. That perspective.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. You've been in a lot of feds. You've been Hall of Fame in a lot of feds. Excuse me.
Yeah, free.
In a lot of feds. And I just want to know, what's your top 5 feds that not just you've been in, but overall?
So there's like, oh, yeah, 1,000 of the bloody things. It's like 1,000 different feds. But a lot of people would go like, OPRW or LWA, but I'm more of like some of the older feds that used to be around. Like, of course, like I think a lot of people would agree, like APRW, number one fed of all time, number one fed of all time. Then I've got feds that are like my favorite fed, like FCW, which a lot of people don't like, but that's understandable. Like, I mean, it is what it is. Then you got PCW, and then you got just other feds, PCW, you get what I mean with it. But it's just a long list of feds. But reason I don't consider OPRW or LWA is I've never been there and I don't know anything about it. So, plus I've never been to PCW or APRW at all. But I've seen and heard a lot about it more than I have with OPRW and LWA. So that's why I consider them over the current feds, where the older feds, they are, and plus, like JWWE, apparently that fed's been around like for like a decade and a half. So that's where you can tell, like, oh, it's a big fed. It's a big fed and it's had a lot of success over the years. So those are my big feds.
Yeah. 100%, JWB has been around for a while. A very long time. Damn. Since you yourself are a Cena, I was going to ask you, what is your top 5 Cena gimmicks in wrestling?
So now it comes to, like, there is a lot of Cena gimmicks. Of course, there's people like, you got Vision and you've got Peter and all that, but of course, I'm not going to add Peter to that list. I know what he's done. Like, before he got his accountable of, what he did. If you know, you know. He's not on that list at all because I don't consider him a Cena at all. Well, a lot of people would, but myself, I'm not a Peter Cena fan at all. But in terms of like top 5, of course you've got that one Cena that everybody knows, and by now, like, he's been around for almost a decade and a half. But of course, with the accusations that have gone on with him, as we know, ugh, I can't add him to the list. As much as I like to add him to the list, he's my number 1 all time. But with the current things that are going on with him, I'm not going to add him to this list this time. So in terms of like who I believe in, like top 5, I would go number 5 would be Destiny. 4 would be Illudian. 5, actually number 4 would be Danger. If you've ever heard of Danger, he's a really great Cena. He also makes good graphics and shirts himself. He's really good. 3 is Illudian. Number 2 is a lot, and I know I'm probably going to get shit on for it, but Luke. And number 1 is Vision. Because Vision made my current attire. He's really good, and he's the current new leader of the Cena Nation. So I can believe, like, for the next couple of years, he's gonna make sure the Cena Nation runs right, and I do believe he will.
Vision
That's why
is such a nice guy.
he definitely is. Like, he's helped me with my attire. I gave him the idea, and believe it or not, he actually put his own idea into most of it. So he done a really great job. And with the new attires he's been releasing for like the past like couple of months, he does a darn good job for what he can do. So, and by chances, he might be the one that makes my final attire. So stay tuned for that.
Yes, sir. You did mention Og. Do you honestly think that he did it?
Now I think that's a clickbait question and horrible. No, I'm joking. Nah, but my overall take on that, like the first time I heard about it, I was like, okay, surely this can't be true. And I actually asked him on the day that it happened, and he told me what he did. I'm not gonna bring up what he put to me, but I was shocked. I was like, yeah, right, that's unbelievable. I can't believe it. And I seen the evidence, and that I was like, wow, that's shocking. Like, and I talked to some of the other singers, and yeah, they were shocked as well. And I thought to myself, well, did he actually do it, or was he framed? And this is where a lot of people don't understand. I recently sent about just over a week ago. He sends an apology thing with a document. And I've seen a lot of people realize, and I realized a lot of people didn't, I don't think, even read it, what it said. Because I read the entire thing and I found something in there that made sense. So the way it sounded like he was framed and baited by who he was talking about. So I don't think anyone caught on to that. And of course, it's going to take a long time for like people to die down from it. Because I'm just sick of hearing about it at this point.
Do you personally think he was framed?
I believe he might have, but you never know. Like, in the community, there's a lot of people that have lied about it. They lie about their own things, so you never know. This could be like a setup, or it could be a lie, it could be a frame, it could have been real. You never know. But me personally, I don't want to really like get into it because I could say something like could trigger something really, really bad. So overall, I'm not gonna go any more into it. But in my belief, like if he actually did what he did, then well, it is what it is. Like he did it, and I don't want to be a part of that kind of trash talk in that community because the amount of memes and jokes that have been out, it's giving me a headache. So I personally don't want to try and hear any more about it. So let's move on to the next question.
Okay. So when are you retiring again?
Just in February 2026, I'll be retiring.
February 2026. Okay.
The date and match and Fed is not official yet. It'll be more official by the time it comes around.
You've got a pretty long time before you retire. There's a lot of things that you could do. What do you think you would want to do? What are your goals before you retire?
At least maybe win at least one more title in a Fed. If I don't, then well, it is what it is. But at least I want to win like one more title. I've won like 30 plus titles, but that's mixed between Feds and the 2K games because I just count title win as just a win, you know. There was one or two that I won before, which could have counted, but they were by forfeit, and I didn't count them because I'd rather earn my victory than get given my victory. In that perspective, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So in that terms, I want to at least like win one more title. Whether that's possible, I don't know. Maybe eventually actually get better because I'm washed as hell, man. I
Not
haven't
really.
been, I haven't been like as good as I used to be. Like, of course, you've seen at AUW where that insane clutch. I still don't know how I did it, by the way. That was insanely awesome.
What happened?
But I'm not like what I used to be in like 2020, 2021 early. So I'm not at like prime peak, but I'm probably at least like, I'd like to say 81%, 81, 82% of the way back to my prime skill. If I can get back there before I retire, I might have a chance at least winning one title. Where, I don't know. But if I do get that chance to win that title, I'll make sure. Well, if I do get a chance at all to win a title, I'll be making sure I can get that title, that win. Because to at least have one more title and then, well, I don't care what else happens. Plus, on that side of things, what I'd like to do before I retire, I'd like to still have a couple of dream matches against a couple of big superstars. But, you know, whenever that happens, I don't know. And maybe at least join a couple of more feds.
Who are those superstars?
Honestly, actually, I can't remember. but in terms of like who I'd like to still face, like, of course, there's some big superstars, like maybe Chryso. Chryso would be a good superstar to face. My number one all time, D-Pain. I know he would absolutely just make me look like shit. He'd destroy by 100% chance he would just destroy me, but you know, having a match against him against a goat, like, you know, that's a good thing. But and another person, maybe I was gonna say Jay Darian, but I don't want to face him. I'm not actually a fan of him. Maybe either Gog or Ryu. They're good superstars, so maybe at least one of them as well.
Okay. I understand that. D-Pain, he's good, dude. Never faced him, but I've watched him. He's good. So,
Been
I
around
was
for a
gonna
long.
ask you this. Huh?
Yeah, he's been around for a long time, so it makes sense why he's so good.
Very long time, too. But somebody asked me this, so I thought I'd ask you this. I think it's like, yeah, let me see. 3 questions. So, the first question was, who do you think would win? Justice League or Unstable Gok?
Ooh, now that's just a way of saying who's gonna win, the old gen or the new gen. Justice League, he's been around like nearly the entirety of Pro Wrestling. And Gog, he recently made his. Actually, don't even know how long Gog's been around for. But I started knowing about him in like the 2013, 2014, 2018. Okay, so around probably just before I started. So, you know, like, and these days, Justice League's known basically everywhere he goes. But in terms of like Gog, he's up there, but I'm not sure who would win against those two. I don't know if they've actually faced before. If they have, I don't know who would have won. But it's about experience versus like speed, because Gog is pretty darn quick, and he's a former RWA heavyweight world champion. So he even like to win it. He beat Jay Darian, so that easily makes Gold pretty darn freaking good.
Yeah.
But in terms of like who would win between the two of them, if I was to give an advantage to both of them, Gold would win by speed, and Justice League would win by experience. So it's kind of a big clash. But from what I could see, I reckon Justice League would maybe edge him, but it'd be super close. I reckon it'd be a super close match. Maybe League would just take him, but it'd be
No.
super close match.
I think. Oh, gosh. I think you're right, man.
Am I?
Like 10-9.
Yeah, it could be.
Oh,
Yeah, it'd be a super close match.
okay. Here's one more.
hmm
Okay. So, this is between two Cenas. Vision or Alton?
Fuck, that's hard. No contest. Because it would take so long for the both of them to at least win the match.
DQ.
Yeah, I don't think it. Oh, actually, well, I know how good both of them are. I've faced both of them before in a match, at least more than once. I think. Well, I versed Alduin, or I still don't know how you say his name. I just call it Eludian. But I think I versed him 2023. Yeah, 2023 I versed him. And Vision I versed, I think, a couple of times in 2024. And very recently this year. So I have versed both of them. I know how good both of them are. Eludian's stupidly good. Like he's incredibly like skilled. And it
I might
goes
be
back
cooked.
to like yeah. So it might be between it's definitely skill versus speed again. It's more skill versus
Bruh.
experience at respective, right? But overall, I reckon Eludian might beat him. Because I know how good
Really?
Eludian. He's incredibly powerful. Like he can get some really good hits in.
His spin is
Vision,
like, oh,
yeah, his spin is incredibly good. But in terms of but with Vision, he'd use his experience because he's been row wrestling for over 10 years now. 10 years now. Ludian's only been row wrestling a year more than I have, so it's a very close match overall. But
but
honestly, it's a no contest because both are just so good.
you can't keep doing no contests.
Damn. Yeah, I think maybe Ludian might win that one. I don't know. I'll have to ask him who will win between each other. By chance they'll just say themselves.
Okay, we're gonna have one more of the match questions. Who would win? Isaac Mercury or D-Pain?
Oh fuck, that's oh shit. Exactly like the last two questions. Experience versus skill versus speed. It's the exact same thing, but if you talk okay, to start from the beginning, D-Pain made his debut in the early 2010, while Isaac Mercury, I think he debuted in 2018. I'm not too sure. I think it was 2018 he debuted. And if you look at both of their careers, D-Pain went from all those years to I think 2021, 2022, because I remember his account got terminated, it and banned. So, and then after years, last year, he managed to return, and then I think he got his account banned again, but then he got it back a little while after. So, but in those terms, and Isaac Mercury, he's retired now. He retired last year. I think it was last year. Yeah. Yeah, it was last year he retired. Or it might have been earlier this year. I think it was last year he retired. But in
I'm not
terms of
sure.
like accomplishments, D-Pain definitely has him more in accomplishments because he's won a lot more titles, I'm pretty sure. In terms of like consistency, maybe maybe Isaac. But in terms of like skill and experience, D-Pain may have him. I think if they would have both versed today, I don't think they're as good as they used to be in that respective right. Because D-Pain now, he's way out of his prime than what he used to be. But he's still insanely good for what he is, for who he is, even though he's not in his prime. And Mercury, well, I think he was just in his prime the entire time he was in his career. So overall, it's a very tough decision. As much as I like to say no contest, and I don't think it would ever happen. I'm 99.9% sure that D-Pain would maybe just edge him. But like I said with GOG and League, it's a very close match. It'd be nearly undecidable. So I reckon D-Pain would maybe just edge him.
I think, as it is now, Isaac hasn't wrestled in what, 6, 7 months? So
Yeah.
I feel like D-Pain would take him.
Yeah, definitely.
I did say this was the last question, but I have to plug AEW. So, who's winning? Me or Alden at AEW Velocity?
Oh, this is a hard question. I know how good you are too. All I can say is just train more than what you've ever trained before.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's how good he is. Like, I don't think I ever trained to verse him, and I know I got destroyed easily. So he's incredibly good, man. So I down wish you luck on to try and beat him. And of course, if you lose, like, don't bitch and moan and cry about it. Just be like, I got the chance to verse. Yeah, it's just Roblox. It's just a game. It's GG's. So overall, that's something I can't really predict because the match hasn't happened. But all I can say is we will all see at AUW.
Yes, You're welcome, Gabriel. Okay. What would you tell the newer wrestlers that are trying to get into the community?
If you're a new row wrestler and you're just starting, don't go for the bigger feds to begin with. No one will know who you are, and most likely no one probably will ever care. If you want to start maybe in like the 2K game first. Pardon me. Start in the 2K. Hang on, I'm stuttering. Start in the 2K game first. Get your experience up first. And then once you get enough experience through it, start joining littler indie feds. And as the years go by, casually grow your level and just go up a notch. And once you reach like the 5-year mark, then start going into some of the bigger feds. Unless you're already super good by like your 2nd year or 3rd year, then you could probably start going into some of the bigger feds. I did it with my career. I was in the indies for like the first like 3-4 years of my career. And then by the time my 5th year happened, I started going into the bigger feds that I'm in now. So overall, don't go into the big smoke when you, as a noob. Go into the big smoke when when you got a bit of a name to yourself and you've got experience. Otherwise, you're just gonna be, you know, you're just gonna be like every jobber in the community. You're just gonna be no one that knows anything. So make a start in something small and start from scratch. That way, when you're experienced enough, then you can go to the big feds. So always start small and we'll make your way to something big.
Yes, sir. That's a great point. Really is, though. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to say before we end it?
So to say, I very much appreciate having you ask me the questions. I was always wanting to do like an interview like this, so I very much thank you for telling me. And you never know, you might see me on here again. When, I don't know, probably when I've retired. But overall, thank you very much for having me on your stream and podcast. I very much appreciate it. I can't wait to watch it when it comes out. And overall, good luck in your match against Eludian. You're very much going to need it. I'm dead set serious when I say that. And as always, in kayfabe, you are very much welcome to Cowboy Town.
You heard it first, everybody. Have a great day, and thank you.